You got a tattoo? Then you gotta have a story. This week, bone-crunching chest pieces and ass ink. It's a good thing. This is the Kahuna. I am here with Airica Michelle, and we are in awesome Manhattan Beach. It's a beautiful day in the summertime, and Airica Michelle's got some ink. Lots of ink. And we were here to talk to her about it today, so let's start with your dog. That's the best one. We'll start there first. You got to go with dog ink.
Yes, it's probably my favorite tattoo. It's hard to pick a favorite for me because I do have so many amazing pieces, thankfully. I've gone to good artists, so I do have a lot of actual quality work, so it's hard to pick a favorite. But my dog tattoo is absolutely amazing because it combines one of my favorite things that I've ever had in my entire life, which is Mario Brothers. And so I combined Bowser and my dog into a single piece, and it's my dog wearing a hood of Bowser. And then I actually have, I'm very symmetrical. I don't know if you can tell at this point, but all of my tattoos are super symmetrical. So on the other side, I have Bowser in a hood of my dog. And so on my other leg, so it's like the inverse of one. So is the camera going to be able to see if I pull it up, or like am I in the whole
We'll
frame?
go ahead and show it and B-roll. No worries.
Okay. So that's definitely my favorite one. I got that one last year. The artist, his Instagram is Beto Redfeather. He's the one who's tattooed me most recently, and he's a really good artist, and he's local in Santa Ana. So if anyone's looking for an artist in Santa Ana, that's somebody that I would recommend going to. He does pretty good work.
Is there a name of shop?
The shop is, I believe, Port City Tattoo in downtown Santa Ana.
Okay. So you know, folks, Bendo, we're going to come find you in Santa Ana. Maybe we'll come interview someday. Now, the thing about your tattoos that amazes me is the color. I mean, the black and white is not an option here. It's a Technicolor kind of world, I think. Tell me a little bit about you. You've got an amazing dragon. I mean, wow. What's the story behind that one?
I actually have an interesting story about my dragon. So when I was younger and I wasn't nearly as tattooed as I was now, I was talking to my boyfriend at the time, and I was like, I think one day I want to get like a purple dragon tattoo on me. And oddly enough, we were walking through a shop in Vegas, and I saw a statue of a purple dragon in the shop, and I was like, wow, that's such a weird coincidence to have like even run into that after just talking about it. And so keeping that in mind, like some years later, I decided I had my left side done. I got my mermaid, and I was like, okay, I want to put something on my right side. What am I going to do? I have this huge mermaid. What do I do with my whole other right side? I'm like, oh, this would be a perfect thing to put my huge badass dragon on, you know, and like the purple one that I always said that I wanted. So I ended up doing my big purple dragon, and the reason I wanted the dragon is because I'm born in 1988. I probably don't look that old. I get that a lot, so thank you for not thinking I'm 32 yet. But yeah, so I'm born year of the dragon. So some of my tattoos are meaningful, some of them aren't. That one happens to be meaningful because that is the year that I was born. So yeah, and so that's probably why I'm so lucky too, because dragons tend to be more lucky.
You're the dragon. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
I don't know what I am. You're the pig or something.
What year were you born?
59.
59. That's the same year my mom was born. I believe that makes you an ox.
Okay, don't tell anybody the year, folks. Shh. All right, now, interestingly enough, tell me why did you get the mermaid?
The mermaid, honestly, I just thought would be cool. I didn't really have like a deep meaning behind it. I actually don't really like water that much. I can't swim super well, so I'm a little... Like, I like the idea of water, but I'm a little antsy around it. But I do like nautical things. I don't know, I just thought a mermaid would be cool, and I wanted something just to cover my whole side, just because, I don't know, it just seemed like it would be cool just to like frame myself in that way. And Jim Sylvia is the one who did the dragon and my mermaid. He's done a lot of my work. He's phenomenal as well, Jim Sylvia. And I don't know, I just thought it would be cool, and it turned out badass, thankfully, right? That would have been a really bad one if I wanted something random and it turned out poorly. Like, that would have been bad.
This is not the Little Mermaid, folks, just so you know. It's got attitude, and it's got a little bit of edge.
Oh, actually, another part of that story. So, actually, let's see. You can see, where is she? You see she has her shell bra. The original drawing was topless. I was like, I think I want to have my tattoos be a little less art than that. I think I want to have the only boobs on my body, you know what I mean?
Modest art. There we go. We got modest art here.
I don't have to like censor my tattoo for Instagram, you know? That'd been ridiculous, because IG would be like, oh no, you could have like some with more followers, your whole butt could be out, but you have a tattoo with her tits out. That'd have been all bad. Right? You know what I mean.
We don't have to worry about that, folks. It'll be
It's PG.
PG. There you go. Now, you are, interestingly enough, you are actually a mixologist. We're talking a bartender here, folks. And tell me, what's the most interesting story regarding your ink when you're behind the bar you've got? You got to have a few.
I mean, story or like just questions that I get, because I do get the dumb questions all of the time. So I work at a bikini bar, so it's all guys, and guys really want to take the half-assed way to talk to you. So I think I don't really have stories about it, but I will just say that the dumbest questions that I tend to get are, who did that? Or not really who did that, but where did you get that done? And they won't even tell me what piece it is. So I'm like, okay, I got a lot going on here. What the hell are you asking me? And then they think I'm rude because I'm like, well, what are you asking me about? And then I'm like, so if I tell you where I got it done, what is that? Does that help? Like, how are you going to know who to go to? You're just going to show up at that shop and hope you can finagle who the tattoo artist was that did the tattoo? Are they even still going to be there? Like, it's just a stupid question that people ask me that's like they're trying to start a conversation and they're not trying very hard. And, like, I don't really like half-assed conversation. Like, if you're going to talk to me about something, at least ask me, oh, like, what does that one mean? Or, like, how long ago did you get that one? Or, like, specifically, like, who did that piece? Like, people will be like, who did your work? And I'm like, well, I got, like, 10 artists on me. Again, like, what are you asking about? And, again, just generic questions that they don't even really care about the answer to. They're just trying to half-ass a conversation with me, which I don't really like. Like, I want to have a real conversation, Let's talk about conspiracy theories.
Guys, come on. Up your game, would you?
Yeah, a little bit. Come on. Let's talk about aliens or something else at the minimum. Maybe Project Bluebeam or something.
You mentioned that you've got some ink that kind of, it's something regarding a friend, right?
Oh, yeah. So I do. Me and my best friend actually have, they're not matching tattoos necessarily, but we both have a cat, and they're kind of in the same spot. I have one on the inside of my right leg, and hers is on the outside of her right leg, and she's a ginger naturally, so my cat obviously is ginger. And then her cat that represents me on her leg is like mint and purple, because I have had that hair before. I've had a lot of hairs, but those are like my colors that represent me. So her cat represents me, and then my cat represents her. The funny part, though, is that I like her tattoo more because it's my favorite colors, but it's on her. But, this is how it goes. I still do really like mine, though. It is very cute. But we've had those tattoos that Alex Strangler did, who's also did a few other of my pieces. She's a really good artist as well. We've had those pieces for probably about 5 years now. God, time flies. It's already been 5 years. Jesus.
Only 5 years. It's okay. Now, if you had noticed, yeah, that's her natural color hair. I'm only kidding. It's the mint green. That's the natural color.
I wish it grew out if it grew out mint green. Oh my God, that would make me so happy. If they ever came out with a pill that did that, I would be the first one to buy it. I don't even care if it made you infertile or anything. Like, I would still take it. So what I will say though is, if you're gonna get tattooed, you better not be a pussy and be getting that numb and shit first. You can do whatever you want after the fact, but if you're going to put some stuff on beforehand, like, you might really want to reevaluate what you're doing with it. Like, the part of getting a tattoo is you have to go through the pain. No pain, no gain. Not that I like it, but that's just part of how it goes. If you can't handle it, you probably shouldn't be having it, right? Like, getting this chest piece done, like, holy crap. By the way, I've only teared up twice in the whole times that I've ever gotten tattooed, and one of them was about getting this colored in. It was about the 3rd hour in of that session and getting that colored in on my chest. I don't know if you've ever heard an electric knife trying to cut through bone, but that's kind of what it sounded like. So not only did it feel terrible, it sounded terrible, and that's literally one of the only times where it's ever been painful enough for me to even, not full on ball, don't get me wrong, I'm still got big old balls, but yeah, some tears were coming out on that one. That was one of the only times. So this is definitely a crazy spot to get tattooed, but again, no pain, no gain. I did it sober with no numbing or anything, so.
Ballsy chick, just so you know.
Yeah, I actually have my armpits too, which I get a lot of questions about that. So there's a misconception that people see your armpits and they just think like, oh my goodness, that must have been like the worst thing in the entire world, right? And the funny part, as you can see, I have all the way down to my armpits. It's actually more painful about here and this part of your arm, near your armpit. Once you get in the actual armpit, I mean, I'm not ticklish too, so that helps. And it was a very quick tattoo, but once you get in the actual armpit, you get a little bit more like meat there almost. Like it's not quite as tender as people think it's gonna be. So yeah, it's not that crazy that I have my armpits tattooed really. People see that though and they automatically are like, oh my God, that's like the craziest thing you could do. That must have been the worst thing ever. And I'm like, you know what? Funny enough, it's actually like just outside of that. That's the worst thing ever. A couple of things. Actually, speaking of facial tattoos, I actually do have my face tattooed. My eyebrows are tattooed under this makeup, so that's another really good investment for women. If you're constantly doing your eyebrows or your eyebrows just aren't what you want, get them tattooed. Don't do the microblading. Get them actually tattooed, and go to somebody good, and then you'll just have perfect eyebrows all of the time. So that's actually probably one of the more gnarly tattoos I had too. Getting my face tattooed. That one didn't feel very good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, just up here, and then like something about that too. I'm just sneezing the whole time. So could you imagine like you're sneezing and you're having your face tattooed? You know, it's just like, okay, I really don't want to like. This is my eyebrows here. You don't want to like sneeze and then she just like goes all over your whole face. So that was a little tedious and like a little nerve wracking to get like your face tattooed too. Because I'm like, oh god, I can't move too much. I can't be sneezing in the middle of this, or I'm gonna have some wonky eyebrows.
Would you ever get your eyelids done?
Like with eyeliner or something,
No,
or just
eyelid
like,
tattoos.
yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if I could sit through that. Honestly, it seems like a little more pain than I'd want to go through. And sometimes you want your eyes to look a little bigger. Like having eyeliner all the time makes your eyes a little smaller. So it's like, I like to change up my makeup and my look too much to want to always have eyeliner on. But your eyebrows are a necessity. You know, you can't be walking around with no eyebrows.
Absolutely. And you can't possibly be done because, you know, you can't be. So what are you going to get next?
I actually have plans. I actually do have 2 tattoos planned that I was going to get this year, but everyone's plans got ruined this year, as we know, but I do still plan on getting them. I actually have 2 that I want to get on the space I have on my thighs, on the sides. One of them is going to be a Blue Jay in a Kobe Bryant jersey. I love basketball. I've always loved Kobe. I wanted this tattoo before he died, so I'm not like hopping on a bandwagon or nothing. It's not about that, but I wanted that. And then on the other side, I'm going to get a Bart Raven from The Simpsons, from the Halloween episode where Bart is a Raven, and I wanted to get a Steelers jersey on that bird. So it's like a combination of a few different things I like. So once you get to be as tattooed as me, you can start running out of space. And I wish I had done this with previous tattoos as well. You have to start combining things that you like. So I'm combining the sports that I like with other birds or other things that I like. That's the same thing I did with my dog, right? So I like Nintendo, I like Mario Brothers, I like my dog. I don't have a lot of space left. How can I put this into one tattoo so I can get more things that I like on my body without having to waste as much space on separate tattoos?
That makes sense. So mashup save space, folks, just so you know.
Right, and that's a really good piece of advice that I got when I was younger about getting tattoos. So many people are like, I don't know what to get, you know, I don't know what I would want on my body forever. And the 2 things to always think about when you're going to get a tattoo is, 1, think about what you've liked your whole life. I have liked Mario Brothers since I was 4 years old. I still like them when I started getting tattoos about 20. So if you still like something since you're a kid and you like it as an adult, you're probably never going to stop liking that thing. So you're probably going to like the tattoo you get of that for the rest of your life as well. The other thing that is so important, even probably more important than that, is finding a really good artist. It doesn't matter what you get tattooed if you go to a good artist, because it will be so well done that it won't matter what it is. You will like the piece because it is a beautiful piece of art. So even if you got over whatever the thing was, like again, the Mermaid. I don't really care that much about mermaids, but it's beautifully done. So I'll never get tired of it because it looks great. So it's really like, so many people are just so indecisive. Like if you get something that looks amazing, you will like it forever. You're never going to get over that.
Tell the folks a little bit about how do you collaborate in an effective way with an artist?
So I find someone that I like and who has usually a style that flows with what I already have. Or even if that's not what they specialize in, some artists are able to do other things if you like their work enough. And I usually just I let the artist do their job. I can't draw, so I won't pretend to. So I just give them the idea, you know, I want something like this, and I want to give them as many details as I possibly can, or I give them references, and I let them do their job. And typically, most of the time, when someone draws when I see the drawing, it's exactly what I wanted too. So it's really being able to work with the artist, let them do their job, and then be vocal though. Like I said with like my mermaid tattoo, if you want to get what you want. So if the artist draws it in a certain way and you don't like something about it, don't be afraid to speak up and say, you know, there's something off about this, or I want it to be different than that. Like their job is to tattoo what you want, not what they want. So if you're going to pay money, you're going to have it on your body for the rest of your life. Don't be afraid to speak up with artists when they draw something, and they might. So I literally had to have it, this piece on my arm. He had to redraw completely from scratch. I went to the shop and he's like, "Is this character an octopus or a squid?" And me not being too thoughtful of the character's name, didn't realize that he was a squid. The character's name is King Calamari from Mario Brothers. if you know anything about anything, calamari is a squid, which I did not think about at the time. So he had drawn the piece completely like shaped like an octopus. They're shaped differently. Octopus are round and like long, and then squids are longer, this shape, you know. So I got to the shop and he had to completely redraw the whole tattoo for me, which he did, and it was fine, and it came out great, and I loved it. And you know, and that's part of their job. Like they might be a little frustrated with you and having to do that, but that's what you're paying them for. So don't be afraid to get exactly what you want.
That's a rule to live by. And remember, you're actually paying them for their creativity. They may come up with stuff you didn't envision that you're really going to love, as long as you give them a little bit of leeway, but you kind of point out, hey, you might want to adjust this and this and this for me. You ultimately get what you want. It's so much better. I want to thank you.
Of course.
This has been an incredible interview, folks. This is the Kahuna. This is Airica Michelle. We are in Huntington Beach. This is Tat-Stories. Make sure that you hit and like that button, hit the notification button, and watch.
Follow me on Instagram.
Absolutely. Follow her on Instagram. We'll make sure that you see that as well if we haven't already posted it, because I know the crew likes to do that early. But more importantly, take care of yourselves, and we are out.
What's up, everyone? Katie Kaz here with Tat-Stories. It's been a hot minute, but I am back with the absolutely decorated doll, Ashley, aka Atomic Ash. She is covered from head to toe, so we have a lot to talk about. Why don't we start with Ashley? What is your favorite tattoo in the moment that you have right now?
I think it would absolutely have to be my one on my thigh. It's always my favorite every time because my artist hand drew that one for me. And it waited an entire year of going through many different people to choose from, and it ended up being mine. It was perfect. It's phenomenal. And it's really trippy looking because it's got double eyes and horns. And most people look at it and they're very like, wow. So it's my favorite for sure.
I love it. And if I know the one you're talking about, it is a horror movie heroine, so to speak, or a female in a horror movie. Who is it and what does she symbolize?
Well, this one is just one that he made up out of his imagination. So I think that one's the more important is just, hey, I found this one and I really liked her and I pulled her out of my nightmares. And it was like, okay, that's right. Just like a queen reigning darkness. So
Awesome. And super customized, too, if that's just made for you. One thing you just said that's really interesting is that you had to go through several different artists to kind of get what you were looking for. One thing at Tat-Stories that we've been talking to people about is what does that process look like when you run into an artist and you don't agree? Like, what was that process like for you to find the one who made that piece kind of what you wanted?
Well, it's actually kind of funny because my guy who's covered most of my body with portraits, he was brought to me by my best friend, and she was like, hey, check out this portrait that this guy started doing. And I was looking at it, was like, oh my gosh. And all the tattoos that I got from him are none of the ones that I initially talked to him about. But I never planned to have a portrait on my body ever because they're so intricate and hard to do. And I was like, that's not something that I really want to do. And then I ended up with a leg sleeve. So I guess the process of figuring out your person is very unique. Like him and I connected, and I had a previous artist that I had worked with, and him and I worked really well too. But he started with like a family and kind of moved off out of doing different things, and it always felt like when you talk to him, it like wasn't necessarily getting everything that I needed out. And when I talked to Cody, I was like, hey, I really like this, I really like that. And he's like, I really want to do this piece. And I'm like, let's put them together. And then we just created art. And it's funny, I have this whole agreement with him to like when I pass away, he totally gets my leg to make a leg lamp out of. And it was the truth, So finding that one person that you can actually work with. I get tattooed by other people, but when I take him something, I can see his eyes light up the same way that mine do. He's passionate about it and he puts into it, and that's really important. And I've had a lot of people tattoo me miscellaneous times, like just going out. I had this random chick in South Carolina that tattooed me and my best friend after just going out and having a day, and we just got these little bow ties on the back, and she was so enamored with my leg, but then she turned around and insulted me about how I don't know how to take tattoos because most of my stuff didn't have a lot of outlining, which you don't do with portraits. And she's like, you clearly don't know what you're doing. And I was like, can you let me off your table now? Because I don't appreciate that. So it's very unique finding the people like to communicate with and get on your level. it's not always every day that you could just walk into some place. And I went through quite a few. I would say I maybe have like 7 or 8 different artists, but Cody has done most of my body for me ever since then. And unfortunately, because he's in Michigan, I don't really get to go back, but I already have like my next pieces, like my whole chest design is all ready to go. My leg design is all ready to go, and I will only go to him for it because I know he can do it, and he's so good with his fine detailing. And that's very important when it comes to stuff like portraits or like the things that I do, because I usually use a lot of paintings to put in there. That's where my chest came from, and my bugs are my arms. So.
Absolutely. And that's great advice. Like with something as, serious and permanent as a tattoo, it really is knowing when to walk away or knowing when, nope, this person gets it. This is what I want. And speaking of your chest that you just mentioned, you have a bumblebee on top of a diamond here. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the symbolism or the meaning behind that?
So the bumblebee comes from my great grandma, and she had these little hairpins that they always used to put in my hair, and I was enamored with them. I still actually have them in my jewelry box, and they're one of my most favorite things. But also because the symbolization of a queen bee is like someone who's independent, runs the hive, has it good and going, and I'm the oldest of 8 kids, so I feel like I've been kind of like a queen bee in my own status of having to take care of siblings and whatnot. The bee originally, from the artist that I found it, was holding a tooth, and I switched it to a diamond because my best friend, after my first breakup when I was like 17 years old, he was telling me, Ashley, this is going to be really tough, but everything that is happening to you is chipping off of your diamond, and it's going to polish you until you shine. And I was like, well, that's the most popular opinion for me to put into my chest of something that could radiate excellence, to where I can look into the mirror and be proud. And I feel like a lot of women, when they put things on their chest there, it always doesn't look right. So putting the bee there was really hard for me. I actually wanted it up on my throat, but when I put it in there, the butt didn't sit right in it, so we had to move it down a little bit. And I also, inside of my diamond, there are dermal holes, because I couldn't decide what I wanted on my chest. So I connected the diamond in my scars as well, so I could still keep my dermal scars into the tattoo.
That is awesome. There's so many kind of multi-layered levels of meaning with that tattoo. And I noticed too, when you talk about empowerment, a lot of your tattoos are very female oriented. You have a lot of Betty Page and a couple others. Can you talk a little bit about is there a theme going on there? Like you want, horror movie females and that sort of thing, or did it just kind of happen that way?
It kind of just happened that way, to be honest. I like horror. I'm into the gore, darker sides of everything, so that kind of just how it was worked out. Randomly, when I got my very first portrait from Cody, it was Carrie, it was Carrie, and when he did it, it was a flash sheet sale, and he was like, hey, I want to do all of these portraits, and I seen Carrie, and it had the front of her face, and it's the new Carrie, with Chloe, and she had one tear and then blood running down her face, and I just looked at it, and it was perfect. It symbolized just like pain, but rebirth and beauty. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to put that on there. And then I seen my next piece was the Queen of the Damned piece, which was a huge piece for both of us because he has never done an African-American woman, and her jewelry was so intricate. And when I first started getting tattooed by him, he'd only been tattooing for like 6 months or so. Oh, wow. So it was a movement on to something very unique and different. And from there, I was like, well, might as well just make it a whole theme. And then we just started pulling different ones. And he's like, I want to do this chick. And I was like, oh, me too. And just ended up with a ton of them. I have Baby from House of the Thousand Corpse on my lower calf. And Rob Zombie's actually shared that because it's such a phenomenal portrait of his wife. It just kind of ended up that way. Like I said, never planned on having portraits, and now I have a leg sleeve.
It tends to happen with tattoos. You don't really plan for it, and then all of a sudden you're covered. All right, so before we wrap this interview out, Ashley, I would be remiss if I didn't ask about a certain recent piece that you just got in a very special spot. You want to tell us a little bit about your Marie Antoinette themed tattoo?
So my best friend and I were kind of sitting on the couch, and we were making jokes about how women keep getting pieces of pizza tattooed on their butt. And I was like, oh, that's hilarious, So I think I'm just going to make a joke out of it and make a play on the cake issue. So I'm like, I want a piece of cake. And I seen the lettering underneath the butt, and I was like, man, there's got to be a perfect thing to put underneath there. And instantly was like, let them eat cake. That's perfect. So I was going in for a tiny piece of cake like this big, and I took it into my roommate's mom, my best friend's mom, who is a very big deal in the tattoo community. She's one of the only 2 women in the entire world that has traditionally trained in hand tattooing in Samoa. So it was a really big deal to go get tattooed by an elite. And I took it into her and was explaining the idea. And then she came back out and was like, look at this elaborate piece of cake, which naturally you'd have to do with Marie Antoinette. It was elaborate. But something that I learned from it is that she actually, when she said let them eat cake, she didn't mean actual cake. She meant croissants, because she is French. So the croissant started off as a hairpiece, and the cake kind of built itself around it to where now I have a strawberry sitting on top of cake as Marie Antoinette's decapitated head, and she has a jewelry in there that she is very well known for, a necklace that was given to her that's beaded throughout the hair, and a dress that she's like a really popular blue dress that she wore all the time. So it ended up being a really historical, unintentional piece, but it's so pretty and very painful.
I love it. I also love the irony that you were sitting on the couch with your friend talking about this piece, and now you can't sit on couches for a while because you have your derriere tattooed. All right, final thing for you, Ashley. Are there any artists, I know you have a couple that you really love, any artists or studios you would like to shout out for Tat-Stories?
Oh, absolutely. Cody Reed at Black Flame Rituals at Bay City is freaking phenomenal. And then Angela Bolson, she is at Big City Tattoos, and she is in North Park, San Diego. She is exquisite as well. So if you're in either of those areas, I highly suggest you get them checked out.
Awesome. Keep an eye out. And Ashley, you have been an absolute delight. Thank you so much for your time. This is Katie Kaz. We're signing out.